Atlantis, Just a Story or True? Part 1, The Evidence. If a middle-aged man told you a story that his 90-year-old great-grandfather told him when he was only 10 years old and claims it is a true story, would you believe that it was true? Would you believe that he had got all the facts right? He then tells you that his great-grandfather heard it many years ago from a friend. The friend had heard the story from a priest in Egypt. Would you believe that it was true? Would you believe that he had got all the facts right? He tells you he has the notes made by this friend, who left them with his great-grandfather. This friend intended to make a poetic drama out of the story. Your friend then tells you that the Egyptian priest changed the names to Egyptian names, and this friend of yours, great-grandfather, changed them to Greek names. Would you believe that it was true? Would you believe that he had got all the facts right? Critias, Timothy's 20e. Critias then listens Socrates to a tale which, though strange, is certainly true, having been attested by Solon, who was the wisest of the 7 sages. He was a relative and dear friend of my great-grandfather Dopes. Timothy's 21b. Critias, I will tell you an old world story which I heard from an aged man, for Critias at the time of telling it was, he said, nearly 90 years of age, and I about 10. Critias 113a. Critias, but before I begin my narrative, I will make a brief explanation, for you may be surprised to hear so many barbarians with Hellenic names, so I'll give you a reason for this. Solon had had to turn the tale to account in his own poetry. Critias 113a continued. Critias, so he has questions about the significance of the names, and discovered that the original Egyptian authors of the narrative had translated them into their own speech. In his turn, he learned the sense of a name. He translated it back again in his manuscript into his own language. Do I believe Atlantis existed? Yes, but Atlantis is a name given to the island by Solon. The names used are not the original names, but the names chosen by Solon to accommodate his poetry. Are all the facts right? No. We know that the names are not, and the story has undergone 2 translations, unknown to Egyptian and Egyptian into Greek. This is the 4th, possibly 5th-hand story. Priest, Solon, Dopes, Critias. It is unreliable evidence. Atlas was the king of Atlantis, but Atlas in Greek myth is a Titan, and in Greek mythology the Titans were at war with the Greek gods. Could Solon be adapting the story to fit within that myth for his poetry? It could even be claimed that the story told by the priest of Sais to Solon is political propaganda. The priest's comments in Timothy's 22c to 23c could be classed as political, but this does not mean that the story told Solon is not based on truth. So what can be said to be true? For the sake of convenience, we will call the island Atlantis. Atlantis is at war with Egypt, and possibly Athens. It cannot be the Straits of Gibraltar, because the straits mentioned are no longer navigable. Crisis 109A, impassable mud that prevents navigators from this quarter from advancing through the straits into the open ocean. This is at least a fourth-hand story, which has undergone 2, if not 3, translations, so it is obvious there could be mistakes. What if larger than Libya and Asia should be between Libya and Asia? What if a naught has been added to the number of years and it should be 900 years? If this has happened, then Santorini and Crete are possible locations for Atlantis. In Part 2 I suggest an alternative strait between Libya and Asia that is not navigable, and an invader that has conquered northern Egypt around the time of the Thera eruption.